Hello and welcome back to another Fear the Walking Dead video. So today we're going to be reviewing Fear the Walking Dead Season 7 Episode 6, and this episode is a big one. Not because it pushes the story forwards, not because anything like that, because we get the CRM and it's a big focus on the CRM, and I really like that. This episode is meant to be an Al episode, however, she cannot carry an episode too well, so they placed her with Morgan and Grace as very big supporting characters, and I think that Morgan and Grace kind of outshined Al a bit at the start, but right at the end of the episode, you kind of care more about Al's story than Morgan and Grace. And that's quite good. I like how I so warmed up to Al being the protagonist of this episode and started to believe that she was running the episode, not Morgan, by the end of the episode, because right at the start we see Morgan, literally, he's introduced right after Al is. There's no like, kind of like with the Sarah one, where Josiah is introduced maybe 10 minutes in. Morgan is literally introduced only a couple, like, maybe a minute or two after Al is. And I felt like Morgan stole the show from there onwards until very near the end when I cared about Al's story. And that kind of ruined the episode slightly, but it's a great episode still. The overall plot of this episode is that while Morgan was moving everyone that Al was with to the Philadelphia, Al kind of broke off because she wants to find the beer lady / helicopter girl from the CRM. She wants to go find her because they love each other or something like that. Something romantic. She wants to go find her and Morgan's gone to go look for her. And that's the premise of the episode. Them just trying to find each other. Like, Morgan immediately finds Al, but then it's just trying to get Al back to come back to the Philadelphia. That's kind of the premise of the episode while the CRM is hunting them down. And I love that. I love how much the CRM is in this episode. There's so much CRM. You get the helicopter, they're all over the place. It's not like where we were told the CRM's going to be in Season 5, and they were literally one woman, and it was only interacting with Al. Morgan meets the CRM in this episode, and it is amazing. I love how Morgan meets them. Like, it's so good. I think it's really cool. Like, they almost kill him, and Morgan gets the shit beaten out of him. But he's able to, like, beat up the CRM. I love how they get rid of them this episode. It's so gory and so nice how they remove the CRM, and it's such a satisfying thing to watch when they finally beat the CRM in this episode. I really like how the CRM are portrayed in this episode, because all the other times the CRM have been on the show, they've been portrayed as this kind of helpful force. They've never done anything bad to the characters. Like, the 1 or 2 times they were on The Walking Dead, they stole Rick. They killed people, okay? They kidnapped people, they stole Rick, and they took Heath. On Fear the Walking Dead, up until this point, all they've done is help Al, do this and that. But now they were a real threat, and you believe that they were a threat, and I really like how they've changed our perception to the correct way the CRM are meant to be shown, other than this benevolent force that have been shown so far. They've been shown as these, like, military evil guys that we need to fear, and I really, really like that. Even though the CRM being the main focus of this episode is super cool, there is one downside to this episode, is that it progresses none of the story of this season. Like, Strand's maybe the main villain and we get no Strand. It's quite annoying to be this far into the season, almost halfway, and we're at the same point we were at episode 1 with the overall arc of the episodes and story. There's like no progression in the overall season story, which sucks. This episode was 100% filler, but it was really good 100% filler. So we got lots of CRM. Morgan met the CRM. We found out about Al. We found out where Al went at Season 6, what Al's been doing. We find out a lot about Al, which is nice. A character that I don't care about by the end of this episode. I cared about them, but the episode was 100% filler, which quite annoyed me because we've had a lot of filler episodes recently, and I feel like this late in the season, we need to be ramping up to something big, and we haven't. Like, episode 7 looks like it's going to be a big episode with lots of Morgan and Strand conflict, but I feel like that should have happened earlier on in the season. This season as a whole as well, just reminds me of Season 7 of The Walking Dead, where it's just build up, and that is it. This episode and this season is just built up with lots of filler, which really annoys me. I do want to talk about the pacing of this episode because it is good. However, when the CRM is dealt with, the episode kind of drags on, like, not in a bad way. The episode just kind of continues on, and I feel like the CRM should have been in the episode slightly longer than they were, because they just kind of, bam, it's over. Then we got another 10 minutes. And I really like those last 10 minutes, because those last 10 minutes really set the scene for this maybe being Owl's last episode. And if this is Owl's last episode, I am fine with this being her goodbye episode. I don't know if she's come back in the second half of this season, but if she never comes back, I am happy with this being her goodbye episode. It really feels like a very good send-off for Owl this episode, and if she comes back, it might ruin this episode slightly, because it's a very good send-off, because it focuses on Owl's character and how she's developed, and it's just shown by Morgan referencing the first time they met and where he was and where he is now, and he's comparing himself to Owl, and I really like it. And at the end of this episode, it's a very nice moment when this time Morgan's behind the camera and Owl's in front, and I really like how they are showing Owl's like changing as a character and how she's grown as a character to not be just the woman behind the camera. She is now her own story. She's a part of people's story. She's not this object, and I really, really like what they've done with Owl, and it's very good and thoughtful what they do with Owl, and I am really happy with the story and character growth of this episode, and it's been the best character focused episode so far this season, I think, without a character I really didn't care about at the start of this episode, but at the end of this episode I really liked, because she grew as a massive character and she became more than something she was before. She was just a piece of object. That's what she saw herself. At the end of the episode, she sees herself as a story. She's no longer chasing stories, she is her own story, and I really like that. Now let's move on to my one sentence / one word overview, and I would say this episode is compelling. It's a really, really good episode. It's a very good deep dive episode on a character you wouldn't normally care about, but care about at the end. It shows a lot of like character like development in all three characters in this episode. Even Grace gets a little character development, even though she's basically a side character. I really liked the focus on Owl when it slowly focused on her, when I got past it being, oh, Morgan's in this episode, he's been in the CRM. When I focused on Owl, it was really good. The CRM were amazing. I really liked how they were taken out, but it was very fast. It was just so good. The pacing is great. This episode is a very fun time to watch. It's a very good time, and it's very entertaining. There's very little faults with this episode. It is just really good, and probably one of the best episodes so far in this season. Like, maybe episode 1 was slightly better, but it's one of the best episodes so far this season. And what do you think of this episode? Please tell me down below. Would you like this to be Owl's final episode, or do you want to see her come back later in the season? What are your thoughts on this? If you want more content, look on the screen, and I guarantee you'll find something else that's better in the recommended list, if you don't come back here and give me a hate comment or something. But peace out, see you later, and I'll talk to you at a later date.